all in and just crisp it up. And don't die, man. They don't die because you know what happens when. Oh, are we on?
Yeah, we're
okay.
On.
Hi.
Howdy,
hey,
we are back. Everything's late. Nobody dies.
So true.
Did that happen? Does that hold true this week? Everything was late. Everything was late.
Okay, so here's
almost died.
Then here's
episode 57.
UPS driver almost died. No, it's people almost died on the plane because of me.
Yeah.
It's true. No, I don't revoke my TSA status. I had to go and apply and pay for that. The TSA pre-check is so great. Best $80 I've ever spent in my life.
Yeah, we're screwed because Kat has that because she does a lot of traveling for work. So she has that, but she can't use that when I'm with her.
Oh, she can. It's just you can't use it.
Oh, yeah.
She can do whatever she wants, man. You're stuck in line.
True. That's true.
Oh, she could be where you're getting by the time you get through that line. The plane could have landed.
Yeah.
No, everything is, my brain is like marshmallow this week. I came home really late Monday night from Chicago, came in here Tuesday morning, tried to hurry up and do all the DC stuff, and it was such a mess, the DC stuff was, because it was like, oh, Alan Scott Green Lantern. Oh, well, okay, I've got 14 people to get Green Lantern, but I have one person that wants Alan Scott. Perhaps I will try them on it. So, then you have to go through and you have to do all that. And I'm like, the shipment will be here soon, the diamond shipment. And no, didn't get here till evening Tuesday. And then it was only half of it. So I wasn't even able to get the rest of it until yesterday afternoon, late afternoon. And then I went home. And I you know what I did last night?
Didn't read comics.
No, I did actually read Howie the Hellhound, which was great, and that was really fun. It was a good setup. It's not a great book yet, but it's a great setup. All right. It's really cool. So it's this cute giant hellhound that a girl finds and starts hanging out with. It's really good. He escapes from hell, and there's like demons trying to find him and everything. It's pretty great.
Nice.
As soon as I closed, I walked over to the movie theater. I got a big ass $15 bag of popcorn. I took that home. I drank like a third of a bottle of whiskey. Ate about half a bag of popcorn and watched The Meg 2.
Oh.
Which was such a dumb movie, and I loved it so much, and I don't know how in the world they managed to have no plot and no story, but also be entangled in 5 plots and different stories.
And we are going to circle back to dumb plots, dumb movies, all that.
All right.
Because, some of you might know, I don't prep Greg at all for the show.
No, we don't.
He just sits down, and then I throw whatever.
Not that I saw.
Oh, okay. But we sit down, then I throw at him what the subjects are going to be, and it's going to be a treat for the viewers this week because we've got Greg. He's probably the world's foremost expert on horror movies, and being this close to Halloween, I thought we'd discuss horror movies and comics and all that good stuff. So been watching a few movies myself, getting caught up on stuff.
Daredevil there.
Oh, that's nice. You just got that?
I got that 2 weeks ago. And Bruce. That hurt. I'm running out of places that don't hurt. It's not good.
But I did want to hit, before we get into all that, we've got Wasatch Comic Con coming up, and we do have the Wasatch Wonders sketchbook. It's Wasatch Wonders #1. So Wasatch Wonders is basically what would happen if Avengers put a super team in Utah. Have you read the book, Wasatch Wonders?
Oh, no. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance.
Super cool.
I got a room of things that I haven't. I'm literally going through things and being like, I'm going to have to get rid of some of these. I'm taking things out of my collection right now so I can get to the things that I want to read, and Wasatch is on that list. I haven't been able to
that I read all the stuff from our Utah local creators.
Yeah.
Evan, we've had him on the show. This is his book, and He's undergoing he's going through chemotherapy right now. So we thought this would be a great opportunity for the charity component. So we're selling the sketchbooks. If you're in Utah, I know we have a lot of Utah viewers. Come on down. You can pick up the blank cover. They're $20. 100% of the money. The entire project was funded by Utah comic creators. So every cent that we make off the book goes right to my C3 campaign to help the American Cancer Society. So, Evan says the creator is a jerk. I've heard that. I saw him in a comic shop the other day. He was like,
I was just gonna say he was in the shop yesterday, and he looks amazing, and you would never know that he's going through the crap he's going through if you didn't know.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like he looks amazing, like, hey, big boy, but I mean like, well, okay. But, he's just like, and obviously he's not coming in right after he got chemo done, but, he looks great. I mean, he's doing, it seems like he's doing awesome.
But, he's kind of a jerk. He kind of hangs around in front of the books waiting for people to kind of be like, well, who are you? And then he's like, oh, I created the Wasatch Wonders.
Yeah, he's like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alfred Page, how's it going, man?
Hey. That's Fat Albert.
His new book, Alfred Page's new Blowtorch book, is insane.
Yeah?
All
right.
He took that character and went to a much darker place than, like, the first outing of Blowtorch and Chess and all that. It was like an 80s image type feel to it and everything. This is a lot darker. He's beating up rednecks in Louisiana.
All right. There you go.
It's super cool. I'll show that off. That's the back of the Wasatch Wonders #1. It's got the Wonders, my little guys in there, all of our sponsors, and Captain Electric, Mr. Ron, our buddy.
Captain Ron,
the
Electric Cowboy
from Whatnot fame. Is on there as well. So what? We're gonna do that. Go. Hey Ron, what? So you can get a copy of this book. Just shoot me a message and we can get it to you. I did a blank cover so our local Utah creators can do their thing on it. Like you can have headshots done, have yourself drawn as a superhero, and we're just using them as fundraisers. So. And
I will, for free, if you buy one of those, I will draw you as a stick figure that's unrecognizable.
Outstanding.
Yes, I'll do that for free.
So
this water contains zero juice. Isn't that weird?
Nice. Huh. Most of my water contains zero juice.
Yeah. Oh, okay, because Fuji apple flavored with natural flavors.
So
anyway, so what was the subject today? Water?
Yeah, water.
Okay. And tattoos.
But anyway, Wasatch Wonders, very cool book. And that is available for fundraising. And also all of the stores in the Salt Lake area, as well as Queens Realm in Roy, it has got donation boxes where you can come in, drop off a can of soup or a bottle of hand soap to restock the pantry at the Hope Lodge.
Yeah, we've got some up here for you to take too. So
right on.
I'm gonna keep the. Should I open up the thing of granola bars? So I'm not gonna eat them. It's got sugar, but should I open them up and put them in there so it looks like people are dropping stuff, or should I just leave that big ass box there? Because usually people, if they see something already in there, they'll be like, "Oh, all right, okay." Yeah,
So that's pretty cool. Stocking up the pantry for the Hope Lodge. So
stocking up the pantry is a great Eminem album.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am
cleaning out my closet and I'm sucking up the pantry.
I am a pretty big fan of Eminem.
Yeah. Especially that sexy green one. She's hot.
All right. So
anyway, what were we talking about again? Oh yeah, M&M's. Also water.
I have recently, so we've discussed before, like getting into Christmas. I watch Christmas movies and I've been hit and miss on Halloween and horror movies. I always watch like the classics. And I was watching a YouTuber the other day talking about the Universal classic monsters and comparing those to horror movies nowadays and how they did all that. And I think it's really interesting, the philosophy, how the philosophy of horror movies have evolved from monsters Like Dracula was a monster; he was the bad guy. The Frankenstein monster was the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. But they were always sympathetic.
I don't think Dracula was ever.
Well, Dracula was not, but
and
no, actually he was, and because his love died, and he got turned into that to try and, because he'd been forsaken by God, and he was sad, and blah blah blah.
Okay, so you're talking Francis Ford Coppola's version of Dracula.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's all. That stuff's also present.
Like it goes back.
That
Dracula probably goes all the way back to the Jack Palance version in 1974.
Yeah. But I mean, even the novel, he was still somewhat of a sympathetic villain. I mean, that's okay. That's one of the things I love about horror is most of the time the villains are victims. Jason Voorhees had disabilities. He drowned. He comes back. He's pissed, right? Frankenstein, he doesn't want to be there. None of this stuff,
Right.
I mean, even vampires, they're usually bitten. They're usually victims. The Mummy, he's not a villain. He took him out of where he's sleeping. You woke him up.
So the Mummy, Karloff's Mummy,
mm-hmm.
was very much a sympathetic villain.
Yeah.
That. And I really love how that story translated into the Brendan Fraser era.
I hated those movies.
I love those movies. I think they did such a great job in translating.
I think they took a great gothic horror and they turned it into a goofy comedy.
That's what I liked about it.
I didn't like that. I didn't like it.
I much prefer goofy horror movies for sure.
Most, if you do look at that, I mean, most of even Freddy Krueger, he's a horrible, but he was an abused child and he was, all this kind of stuff. And so he is the product of abuse and being a victim.
Okay. So do you think,
it does not excuse it, but it explains it.
I'm trying to think back. I of course have seen Nightmare on Elm Street, the first couple at least. Mm-hmm.
Go on, bitch.
Because
sorry,
Johnny Depp was so dreamy.
Oh,
18-year-old Johnny Depp.
Okay, now it sounds creepy since it said 18-year-old. Johnny Depp was so dreamy when he was 18. He was a hot teen.
He was so young in that.
He was very young in that. Yeah.
But I don't recall anything redeeming about Freddy Krueger in the first.
Not in the first one. No, you don't see that.
But the remake, they made him into more of a sympathetic character.
Well, and they did go more that direction later on in the Nightmare series. I mean, and because you can't have a one-dimensional. This is a bad guy who kills and abuses kids, and now he's going to come and kill everybody else. You can't just have that one because it's not interesting. In the first Nightmare, yeah, he was scary. In the second Nightmare, he was mean. Like, he was really mean in that second one. And that was, he was creepy in that and just, and then they turned him into the wisecracking guy in, 3 and on. And I think it was that Freddy's Dead, with the really bad 3D effects that they had. Like Alice Cooper was his dad. He played his dad. It showed him.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And Alice Cooper played his dad, and his dad murdered his mom in front of him when he was a kid, and he beat him and all kinds of stuff. And, so he is a product of horribleness that continued the cycle, but he is still sympathetic. When you look at all that stuff, he's a meaner sympathetic villain. But yeah, I mean, he always is.
So, and I was going to ask you about this. My daughter and I have been kind of going back and forth because she loves horror movies, and she took classes in college about horror movies and all that stuff. And I thought that Michael was always Laurie's brother. And she tells me that in that first movie,
not in the first one, you didn't know. That was never a plan.
Well, I think she was telling me like they weren't related. They weren't planning on having them related.
Yeah.
And what it would have been number 4.
No, it was the second one that they.
Was it the second one?
It was the second one. And
I thought they filmed both those at the same time.
No, because John Carpenter only wanted to do one Michael Myers movie. That's why number 3 was Season of the Witch, because he wanted to do an anthology series.
Right.
And they got him back because it made damn much money. And they were like, no, you need to do a Halloween 2. He's like, I don't want to do Halloween 2. They said, well, you need to. So he wrote a quick script. And he was like, okay, well, we got to have Jamie Lee Curtis back. And now she's in the hospital. And we have to have Michael back because that's what they wanted. And that's why he was definitively killed in that second one.
Right.
He was blown up and burned to nothing, But that was the thing. He's like, well, I don't know what this is going to be about. And I don't know why he's still, okay, maybe she's his other sister that was adopted or something. Adopted by the other family once that happened. It's the unknown sister. Okay, fine. Let's just roll with it.
So later,
it was until then.
The only Halloween movies I've ever seen are 1, 2, and H2O. Those are the only ones
I still will stand behind H2O. I think it's a great movie.
I think it was great.
Yeah.
And those left me with the understanding that Lori was his sister.
Mm-hmm.
But my daughter's like, no, she's really not his sister. So I don't know if there's something canonical there.
Okay. There are like 4 different timelines in Halloween.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too confusing.
Yes, that is. So, 1 and 2.
That's like the DC universe.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So it's like, 1 and 2 and H2O are kind of one timeline, right?
Okay.
Because you've got, number 2 takes place that night. When she goes to the hospital, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, and then you got the Halloween 3 timeline, which is completely removed. Right. Season of the Witch, which is an awesome movie, and I don't care what anybody says. That's a great movie. Not a great Michael Myers movie, even though he does appear because they're watching Halloween on TV in the bar. but Halloween
TV show was a sequel to Season of the Witch.
No, they never did a TV show.
Oh no, I was thinking of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. No, so Halloween 3 takes place in a reality or a timeline where Halloween 1 and 2 are just movies because it's on TV,
right?
Which is confusing and weird, right? But that's technically another timeline, right? Halloween 4 is supposed to be the continuation of 1 and 2. So they go with 1, 2, 4, and 5, which is that whole thorn thing, which is they sucked and it was a mess, and 6. And then they decided no, then because in that timeline, Laurie Strode was dead in a car accident. Because Danielle Harris, who's supposed to be her daughter, so he was, she was killed in a car accident. But then they decided that wasn't going to work, man. So they did Halloween H2O, right? And then that was like, oh no, she's alive. She's just been in hiding and she's an alcoholic. And then they did the one with Busta Rhymes, which was just stupid, but anyway. And then Rob Zombie tried his continuity, and that was awful, man. And then they came back with Halloween in 2018. Right. And Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. And that's a direct sequel to number 1. Okay. And they're pretending nothing else happened. And in the new Halloweens, it's not his sister. They're not related in the new Halloween movies.
Okay.
So they have backed that up again with a different continuity. They just don't know what to do. Yeah. And it is one of the most confusing continuities in horror movie history.
Wow.
It is. I mean, and it is screwy, man. And they have gone with all kinds of stuff. They did like a partial, found footage thing with, of all people, Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks were in it. No, I'm dead serious, man. And they were doing a reality show in the old Myers house, and it was just what? Yeah, it went off the rails, man. And they're not all good, definitely not. But I've seen them all, and I own them all.
Well, I think when you're talking horror, good is extremely subjective.
It is very subjective.
Is. So going back to Halloween 2, I just want to say the only thing I remember from Halloween 2 is when dude was singing Amazing Grace in the hospital. That's like the only thing. Only thing I remember about that.
Oh my! Offer promotion of our channel. That's amazing. Oh, nice. Wow. Is that C3PO or is it a different bot?
Twitch. What can you do?
Oh, okay. There you go, man.
Yeah. So, and so through watching these, because I watch all this stuff while I'm working, while I'm pressing books, it occurs to me that back during the 4 phases of the classic Universal monsters, one thing stayed consistent, that the monsters were the bad guys. The movie wasn't really ever about Dracula or ever about Frankenstein, the Frankenstein monster.
They were really side characters.
They really were, and your heroes were the people that were fighting the monster. Van Helsing was your hero, and that has changed dramatically in the modern horror movies.
Yeah,
because now everybody roots for Dracula. Like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, he was such a sympathetic character that like you couldn't help but feel bad for the dude when he got off.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, and that's and that is, I mean, that is true. Yeah, they're much more sympathetic. They're much more layered.
Right.
Which is good. I mean, yeah, you've got to. There's something. It's kind of like comics. There's something charming about the simple black and white. This is your good guy. This is your bad guy. There's something charming and fun about that. And I still will go back and watch those because they're just great fun.
Right.
The Hammer horror stuff is when they started really ramping it up a little bit. And I was going to say Halloween 2. Part of the reason John Carpenter didn't want to do Halloween 2 is because, number one, he thought, okay, that's it. We'll leave it on this creepy note. You never know if the guy's going to be out there or not. Who knows, right? But he also didn't want all the upped gore and nudity and everything that was in part 2. Right. And there was a lot.
Yeah.
And there was a lot. And we went from having hardly any blood. Even in Halloween 1, when he like knifed the guy and knifed him into the cupboard and sat there and looked at him, there was no blood in that.
Yeah,
it was kind of like Texas Chainsaw. You started with hardly any blood at all, and then you went to a gore fest.
And there's a lot of things in those movies, Halloween 1 and 2, and Friday the 13th, The Fog, the slasher films in that movie that would be, by today's standards, very problematic.
But also very tame. I mean, and as you started, and yes, they would be in a lot of ways. Yeah, some of them would. Yeah. I mean, and even back then though, they changed a lot of stuff in some of those movies. And I think it was and Friday the 13th, I think part 5. They had the. I don't know if you remember that one at all, but they had.
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they had this girl, and she was, she's supposed to be this like punk rock girl and everything. And she's listening to like some weird new wave stuff, and she's like robot dancing in her room, and she gets stabbed, and they're like, oh, okay, all right, you can use that, man. You can't, the way they initially shot it, they're like, you can't do that because he stabbed her somewhere else. And they're like, you can't do that. Even then, they were like, no. I mean, that's a lot, man. I mean, I know a lot of people think that, the weapons are stand-ins for certain things in these movies when they're killing women and whatever, right. But I mean, that a big thing about horror movies that people don't really understand when they say, oh man, they're so misogynistic and they're just women hating and they're just killing women. Well, most of the men in these movies get off way worse. way worse, and it is messier and bloodier and more painful for the most part when the men die. And very few times, very few. I'd think Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Evil Dead movies, there's never a final guy.
Right.
The guys are always stupid, man. They're doing dumb shit and they get killed. It's always a final girl, and they end up being strong and killing the, or at least dispatching temporarily, the villains. And so it's like, and that's the whole series, Slumber Party Massacre. Rita Mae Brown, noted feminist, wrote the first one. All three of those movies were written and directed by women. And they were all supposed to be parodies of slasher movies. Roger Corman produced them all. And in typical Roger Corman fashion, he was like, no, we need some boobs. So he shot some extra scenes,
Yeah.
But I mean, and it was supposed to be a parody of slasher movies. And it kind of was. And those are some of my favorite movies ever. God, I love those movies.
Yeah. So recently, I'm going to pull that one down. So I've been watching a lot of pulp type horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it started because they had Svengoolie is on MeTV now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to watch Svengoolie because he was doing the Trilogy of Terror.
Oh, I loved that.
And Kat had never seen it. She didn't know who Svengoolie was. She doesn't really even know who Elvira is.
And to think I thought we were friends.
And so I'm like kind of explaining what pulp horror is. And it's really something that came out of comic books from the 40s, late 40s.
Yeah, it's 40s and 50s, yeah.
Some really cool stuff. Tells of the crypt and tells of suspense and all that good stuff.
Yeah, there's that. There's House of Secrets, Tales to Astonish. That was all horror stuff. Right. Tales of Suspense, Adventures into the Unknown.
I used to love Haunted Tank. Like that one was awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to go really far back, it's all that stuff, all the early Marvel stuff. That was all horror, man. So when you get all that, Beware and, Worlds, blah, 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 whatever, those are all Marvel reprints from the 40s and 50s stuff, like the pre-code stuff.
Right.
Which I love. I love that. That's how Fear started too.
Right.
Where, Morbius showed up and all that kind of stuff. And then because they were reprinting the older ones, then started putting the newer stuff in. And yeah, how do you not love that stuff? It's so much fun.
Right. And it was really interesting the way the really what got the Comic Code Authority going was that pulp horror stuff.
Yeah. And the crime stuff, the horror and the crime stuff.
Because a lot of it was like back during that Universal era, the monsters, one consistent thing in the Universal formula is at the end of every one of those movies, whether there was going to be a sequel or not, that monster died.
Yeah.
Every one of the monsters died. And all the bad guys in your crime movies died. Like, it was a done deal. And then that pre-code horror stuff, the old Tales from the Crypt and that kind of stuff would take you into a place like some of these writers. Block was a writer for that stuff. And but it would take you to a place where you're not sure if that creature died. You're not sure if that creature was even wrong in the first place. And those people that killed it may have been the bad guys,
right?
And I think that's why they brought out the Comic Code and enforced all that, because they couldn't have kids going around thinking that monsters were the good guys.
Yeah. And they were saying, it's going to destroy kids, it's going to warp their minds, it's going to do this, going to do that. And I mean, look at us, we're okay. Anyway, let's move on from that.
That's all too commonplace. And I complain a lot because, like, to me, my personal sensibilities, like, Luke Skywalker's your hero, Han Solo's your hero, but everybody wants to be Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I wanted to be Han Solo and Darth Vader. I thought they were both badass. I never wanted to be Luke.
Yeah, nobody ever wanted to be Luke.
Yeah. I was Luke when I was 3, and I wanted candy.
Yeah.
And I was just stomp my feet and whine. That was Luke. You know.
I would want to be Luke after Empire.
Because you got badass.
He matured and he kind of became cool after Empire. I don't
know. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he got the really hot redheaded wife at that point, Mara Jade. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's I don't know any of the
you don't know
stuff.
Any of that
I don't
stuff?
know any extended stuff at all. Yeah, but I think that when you look back on that and it's like, oh yeah, the monster always dies and the monster doesn't die. There's always this argument about what the first slasher movie was. I always go with Peeping Tom.
I've never even heard of that one.
It's an amazing movie. It's really, really good, and it's about a murderer. There is the like POV shots like they use in Halloween and Friday the 13th and everything, you know, even Psycho. A lot of people say it's Psycho. I go back to Peeping Tom because he's filming his murders, and some of what you see is through his you know, at this point ancient, but you know, like 8mm camera or whatever, you know, and he's like filming it, and it's a POV. You're seeing and you're being forced to identify with the killer while you're watching it because you're looking through his eyes. And you know, it was a huge movie that is not. I mean, I think it's gained some recognition lately in the last decade or so, maybe. But you know, that was really, really good. I always fall back on that as the first slasher. That's just what I think. But Psycho was the first time where you have a major villain that is confused and sympathetic, that at the end is alive, and man, you feel like he's going to be back. And it took 20 years to do it, but I think Psycho 2 is one of the best sequels in horror history. Psycho 2 is fantastic. Exorcist 3 is amazing.
Yeah, I didn't care for Psycho 2.
When's the last time you saw it?
It's been a while.
Revisit.
It's been a long time.
Revisit.
I'm a huge fan of the book, which is completely different than the movie. They're not even in the same realm. But when Block wrote Psycho 2, the book, like, it is just really, the twists and turns in that are amazing. I don't know why they didn't make a movie of that.
And revisit Psycho 2. It's got an incredible cast, like Meg Tilly, Robert, Dennis Franz. Like, there's tons of great people in it, man. It is an excellent movie. And separate it from the novel. Sit down and watch Psycho 2, and you'll see it is damn good. It is really good.
But I never really consider, personally, for me, I don't consider Psycho a slasher. Like, they've got one scene where he knives a chick, but it's really not. It's more of a psychological.
Oh, I full on. So I think it's a slasher. Full on, man. Full on. It's a guy that's killing people, dumping their bodies, killing people with hammers and knives and everything.
Now, that franchise, they've only done 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah, they've done technically 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it turn more into a supernatural type, like Norman has?
Nope.
Really? Never touched that?
Nope. They kept it there. They kept it reality based. And, I mean, I think all of them have actually been pretty good. But it's Psycho 2, and it was also directed by a guy that worked with Hitchcock on the first one. There's so many really good connections with that. And then and I think they've all been good, but then there's franchises like The Howling, which the first one, absolute classic.
Yeah.
Incredibly great movie. That is all.
Yeah.
Howling 2. Have you seen Howling 2?
Yeah.
The marsupials?
Yeah. Yeah,
Or no. Marsupials was 3. Howling 2 is your sister is a werewolf.
Your sister's a bitch. That's the name of
it. Also, a great Simon and Garfunkel album.
We've had that conversation before. Because that's the only title I knew it under was Your Sister's a Bitch.
Yeah, it's not. It never was.
It's got to be somewhere because
in German it's Stirba Werewolf Bitch. That's what it translates to.
Stevia, werewolf bitch.
Yeah, the lady.
Sugar substitute werewolf bitch.
Yeah, the lady that plays, or the lady that Sybil Danning plays, whatever that character's name is.
I think her name's Boobs.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Her tits are on screen long enough that
she was so mad about that.
Speaking of Corman movies,
the Poe movies.
I had to explain to my wife who Roger Corman was. I got to educate her on Corman because
do I even know Kat? I feel like I don't.
We're not big horror movie watchers, but so we watched the Trilogy of Terror, which I had to see again.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it in probably 30 years or more. And I was trying to explain it to her. I'm like, this movie's great. It's like, it's one of the greatest anthology movies ever made. Everybody loves it. The little voodoo doll thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, haunts me. I have nightmares about it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, because I watched it again the other day and I'm like, oh, that scared me. But
sometimes it's surprising the things that scare you.
For its time, it was extremely terrifying, especially for a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
It was extremely terrifying.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really that little tiki doll that scared me.
Mm-hmm.
I come to learn it was that last scene where she's waiting for her mom to come over and she's like got the Kubrick stare going on, stabbing the floor with her knife. So anyway, that was a Svengoolie
nice
pulp thing that we watched, and then the next night I made her watch The Terror, hosted by Elvira.
Oh yeah, with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson's first movie, and I remember that one was.
Is that Karloff too? Was he in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a Karloff movie.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, Jack Nicholson was an absolute nobody at that time.
Yeah, and then then Corman put him in Little Shop of Horrors after that, and then he blew up.
Nuts. Yeah. But and I was trying to explain to her why Corman was famous, and
oh my god,
yeah.
I mean, he gave a start to Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah.
Dementia 13. That was a Corman movie. He gave him his start. My God, yeah, Jack Nicholson. So you can't even Joe Dante. All these guys worked under him. James Cameron.
Yeah.
Gave James Cameron his start. He did special effects on I think Battle Beyond the Stars.
And Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
Like there would be no modern horror without Corman.
Absolutely not.
Like everybody gives that position to Hitchcock, and I don't think it's deserving. I mean, I love Hitchcock.
Hitchcock only made a couple of horror movies.
Yeah, he really only did.
I know he did. You know what? No, is it Psycho, The Birds, and Frenzy? That's it, I think. And they were all dark psychological thrillers, or whatever you want to call them. But those are really the only three I would consider to be horror movies.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
because he pushed it, man. He pushed the limits to everything.
Yeah. But I don't think that he's responsible for modern horror.
Neither do I.
I think that he may have laid some of the groundwork because Romero was around that time.
Yeah, Romero's 68.
And like that's horror. That's modern horror.
Yeah. So I think that Corman is to thank for most Corman, of it.
Well, and Ed Wood. I mean, Ed Wood had a lot to do with modern horror.
But that was more modern sci-fi.
I think it's more modern. Well, both.
Yeah.
But like a lot of his stuff was at least wanted to be more horrific and scary.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but it wanted to be.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
he allowed a certain freedom to where these other guys could grab a hold of and be like, well, we can talk about that in a movie. Well, we're going to take that and we're going to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was Ed Wood's contribution
Yeah.
to modern horror, as he did it
Well,
wrong.
and, and everybody watched that when they were kids.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, the crazy blah blah blah. I mean, I watched it as a kid on Channel 13. And I'd watch the whatever movie of the week, and they would have this crap on the weekends or
Right.
Whatever, and I would watch the hell out of them.
Well, they used to have it was Sci-Fi Theater. That's where I became such a Pink Floyd fan, because they played Time was the intro to Sci-Fi Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super cool.
Yeah.
So, one thing I want to touch on that I think is really cool. So, the comic books of the 40s and 50s, Tales from the Dark Side and Tales of Terror and all that stuff that the Tales from the Dark Side TV show was based on. So it was really kind of cyclical. They made the comic books, and then
Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah. Tales from the Dark Side was a Laurel Entertainment, Richard Rubenstein, and George Romero show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. They produced it.
Which is another one you can't get streaming anymore.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you can catch a few episodes on Roku. But so they had those comic books that inspired first the 1972 movie, but then really the HBO half-hour anthology, which then inspired Creepshow.
Yes.
Creepshow, because Creepshow was never a comic book.
No, everybody thinks it was.
Yeah.
Creepshow wasn't a comic book till last year.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
They didn't do anything in well, they did this.
No, and they did that to coincide with the movie.
And this is the comic book of the movie.
Uh-huh. But it was like a bookstore adaptation. That wasn't a comic book thing, and that was something you would see in B. Dalton's bookstore or something on the shelf, with the horror stuff. They would put it with the rest of the Stephen King stuff. That's all they do. But yeah, there was never a comic until last year. They've re-released this a few times.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, and they did like a really cool version of this when the TV show came out. I grabbed one of those too because it was really awesome. But yeah, and everybody for years were coming and they're like, "Do you have the Creepshow comic?" I'm like, "They've never made a Creepshow comic." And they're like, he was reading it in the movie, and I'm like, Well, Luke Skywalker was flying a spaceship in the movie too, but I don't have one of those either. But, it's like, I'm sorry, man. That is just made for the movie. That's all that is. And the great thing with Creepshow, is they tried to, when the lights would come on, the different colored lights in the movie and everything, that was not post production or green screen or anything because they didn't really have all that money or the correct technology for it, so they just zoom and then there'd be people like turning on the red lights and then the green light and then and just like shining it on there, and they would do all the light testing and everything and stuff like that. And so I mean it was all very practical and bare bones stuff.
That's cool.
And Tom Savini, that did the effects, did Fluffy from The Crate.
Okay.
Which is just one of my favorite movie monsters of all time.
Yeah.
But up until then, he'd just been basically doing gore effects. He didn't do creature effects. So he would do, gore effects, zombie effects, a couple of Friday the 13th movies, Romero zombie stuff, Maniac, Prowler, which is a mean movie if you've never seen that.
That's a good one.
It is mean as hell, but it's good. Same guy that directed Friday the 13th, Part 5. Actually, he wanted those kills to be nastier like they were in the Prowler, and they were like, no, we can't do all this. Joe Zito, yeah. But anyway, Savini was really excited about that because he could actually do creature effects, and he was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to try this. And, they had like tons of people working Fluffy from in the back and, the big puppet thing, wires all over the place. And that was so great, man.
That was cool.
And I just feel like, and then Creepshow 2 was never as good, but I still love it, man, because there were a couple of stories from Creepshow 2 that were supposed to be in the first one.
Yeah.
And, they just bumped it to the second one because they didn't have the time or whatever. Oh, the other thing, remember when the creep is looking through the window and he like animates and flies off?
Yeah.
Tom Savini was like, what the hell, man? Because they did this whole thing where they could practically, make him fly off and everything, and go up into the night, and they filmed it and everything. And then he saw it and they had animated over it. And he was like, what? Why, man? But, they wanted it animated to be more of a comic book looking thing.
Right.
But God, what a classic movie, though, man!
Yeah, it was a great one.
I mean, my God, you got an unbelievable effects team.
Yeah,
Savini, the KNB guys that that like do Walking Dead and everything now. Nicotero, Greg Nicotero, Robert Kurtzman, Howard Berger, those guys who are just killing it on that, man. The height of practical effects too, right here.
Oh yeah.
And the cast, you got Adrian Barbeau, Hal Holbrook, Fritz Weaver, like an amazing cast that was not typically in a lot of horror movies. Now, Ted Danson, Leslie Nielsen, Galen Ross.
I forgot Ted Danson was in that.
Yeah. Galen Ross was Leslie Nielsen's wife that Ted Danson was cheating with.
Right.
And she was the one in Dawn of the Dead. Fly Girl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got Stephen King involved, you got George Romero involved. How can you get better than that, man?
Yeah. Oh, that's some great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
So Halloween's coming up. You still have like a week. Not even
Yeah.
5
Oh,
days.
and Saturday we got Halloween books to give away.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Halloween Comic Fest.
Right on.
Yeah, they're not even packs. We just got a bunch of books. Oh.
Right on. So yeah, if you're one of our Utah watchers, pop in Black Cat this weekend. What else you got going on? Is the flash tattoo thing? You're not doing that here, though.
Oh no, we're not doing it here. But our friends at Look Tattoo on the 29th, they're doing a flash tattoo sale. With their flash art and everything, and it's arms and legs, preset designs, whatever. But they're doing it. They're doing a big Halloween tattoo sale, and
Right on.
cool. I don't know, man. We might have some candy or something up here on Halloween, and it's that time of the year, man. Okay. It's that time of the year where I act exactly like I do for the rest of the year, but nobody looks at me weird this time.
We're going to put Greg on the spot here since he is our guru.
Okay.
Top 3 must-watch Halloween movies before Halloween. What are the 3 that our viewers need to go out and watch?
Trick or Treat. The Trick or Treat, not Trick or Treat. There's 2 different Trick or Treat movies.
I didn't know there were.
One is from the 80s and has Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons in.
Okay.
And the other one is from a couple years ago, Trick or Treat. That is probably one of the best anthology movies. It's up there with Creepshow. It is one of the best anthology movies because it all connects. And if you look carefully, every time you watch that movie, there's something else that you'll see in there that connects to something else. It also has a great cast: Anna Paquin, Brian Cox, tons of really good people in there. Dylan Baker's in it. Lots of really good surprises. Lots of bit parts for big actors, like Leslie Bibb is in it for like 2 minutes. And when you watch that, look for the guy in the hot dog suit because he's in like almost every single thing. It is so funny. It's so great. Man.
Okay.
So yeah, let's see. I'm gonna go Trick or Treat. If you want to watch a really, really painfully bad but unbelievably enjoyable Halloween movie, Hack-A-Lantern.
Okay.
Really, really awesome. And I mean, you've got to go back to Halloween, but I'm not going to say the first one. I'm going to say the 2018 one.
Okay.
Go back and revisit that. Yeah, it's been a couple of years, and yeah, the last 2 got a lot of bad mouthing and everything. But I think if you look at it as a trilogy, it really makes sense. and it works. But the 2018 Halloween is just so good, man. Or Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Okay. That's always one of my perennial favorites for Halloween.
You know, I've never seen Season of the Witch, but I do have. I think maybe I'll make Kat watch that with me tonight.
You need to watch. It's so great, man. You know, and Tom Atkins is just ridiculously awesome in it. He's at his peak of Tom Atkinsness. He is just so awesome, man.
All right.
So yeah, then I would actually put Season of the Witch there instead of the 2018.
Okay.
So Trick or Treat, Hack-O-Lantern, and Hack-O-Lantern is a giant steaming piece of crap that you will love. I'm telling you right now, man.
I've been getting into those a lot.
Oh my God, man! It has got overacting. It has got a guy that plays a character's grandpa in a flashback, and all he has is a dark wig on, and he looks exactly the same. You've got a guy that's supposed to be 18, and he's like 30. And he lives in his parents' bedroom, or in his parents' garage. You've got cult stuff. You've got bad heavy metal video. There's like a heavy metal video in the middle of it.
Nice.
For absolutely no reason. And it is garbage, and I love it. Oh, I love it. So there you go. Those are the three.
Season of the Witch.
And Season of the Witch, yep.
So there you go. Greg's recommendation, 3 movies to watch. Let us know in the comments what you're interested in, what you think we should watch. I'm going to try to get a few more in. I've been watching a lot of the Svengoolie and Elvira, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mystery Science Theater.
Get on Shudder and watch Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater. He's still doing that on Shudder.
Really?
Yeah. And he's got some great stuff there, and he'll stop and do trivia and like really NPC sarcastic jokes about the movie, and it is fantastic. You'll love it.
All right. So whatever you're watching, whatever you enjoy, I hope you guys have a happy Halloween. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the little bell.
Bing.
So you'll know when
you're expecting something more dramatic, weren't you?
That just kind of threw me. So ring the bell, make sure that you're notified whenever we drop something new. And if you want to read something really scary, go pick up John Carter of Mars. See you later, traders.